We got Monday Night Football between the Bills and the Broncos, and I have two NFL player props for you guys to lock in for this game. My name is Matt Modi with Jedi Modi Sports Network, and my strategy when it comes to player props, I like to pump those bad boys up. And what I mean by that is I find a player prop that I like, but instead of taking it at the main line, I juice up the numbers a little bit in hopes of getting pretty juicy odds for a pretty juicy payout. The success has been phenomenal since I started doing this. My first week was in week 7 of the NFL season. Since then, we have gone 3 weeks of doing this, and I am up over 20 units in 3 weeks of NFL betting with this. Now, I am recording this on Sunday before the games have officially been finished, so I don't have a recap specifically from my most recent plays for you. I have 3 on this NFL Sunday, still waiting for those to finish. I am on a little bit of a cold streak, 0-3 on my last 3, but as I mentioned, overall, the success has been phenomenal. So hopefully we get all 3 of our plays to cash for Sunday. And then obviously we have 2 for Monday. Real quick, before we get into the plays, I would appreciate it if you're watching, if you're not already, if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel and then also like the video and comment. Let me know your thoughts, whether you're tailing, whether you're fading, whether you have pumped up props that you like. I love going through the comments and responding as much as I can. And let's get into these plays. So again, we got Bills versus Broncos. I have 2 for you guys. The first one that we are locking in here is Javonte Williams, 75 plus rushing yards, plus 220 odds at Caesars. So for Javonte, after a slower start to the year, which you can easily explain away because he was coming off of a devastating knee injury, tore multiple ligaments. It was rough. Always going to be a slow return from that. He's looked awesome the past 2 weeks. So heading into their game against Green Bay, this was 2 games ago. Now they had the bye last week, so technically 3 weeks, but 2 games ago. Heading into that game, Javonte hadn't rushed for more than 52 yards in a single game this entire year. Since then, and it's been 2 games, he has gone over 80 yards in both. That was against the Packers, as I mentioned, and then the week after that was against the Broncos. So that's obviously a good sign, the fact that he's been having more success. I like to look at some of the other numbers like carries, snap percentage, all that good stuff. And the good news is very encouraging in terms of his snap percentage and his workload and all that stuff. Last game specifically against the Chiefs, he carried the ball 27 times. Now that was a game in which they were leading the entire time, so they just relied on the ground game. And I will admit, he wasn't super efficient with those carries. Again, he had 27. He only totaled 85 yards. But the fact that the team trusts him and trusts his knee enough to give him 27 carries is a good sign, especially the fact that they got a week off after that and are now coming off of the bye week. So bye week teams always self-scout. 2 weeks in a row, Javonte Williams had a good game. They also won both of those games. The Broncos did. So I'm guessing there's going to be a little bit of causation and correlation there. I'm not expecting him to get 27 carries in this one, but the week prior against the Packers, he had 15 carries and totaled 82 yards. So it's not as though he's a completely inefficient runner, and it's not as though he needs a massive workload to get those yards. In this game specifically, the Bills are favored, but their defense is just not remotely close to what it was at the beginning of the year. I feel for them. A ton of injuries have sapped a lot of the talent from this Bills defense. But what it means is that they're simply not as good. And I projected this game to be closer than the spread indicates. I'm not going to be an official play, but I do like the Broncos to cover the spread in this one. Wouldn't be surprised if they won straight up. So for this game, I'm expecting it to be close, so the Broncos aren't going to need to pass the entire time. I do expect them to lean on the ground game, and I expect them to continue where they left off, giving the majority of those carries to Javonte Williams. He looks healthier. He looks great. He's always been an explosive runner, so it's nice to see him get that back. He may only need 15 carries again to get us to 75. If he does, we're cashing this plus 220 odds bad boy. Next up, second and final pick of the evening, Dalton Kincaid, 75 plus receiving yards, plus 280 odds at Caesars. This will now be the 3rd straight week that we are riding with Kincaid at a pumped up number. We've gotten both of them to cash prior to this, and I like riding with him once again. I do not see Kincaid slowing down, at least not yet. His main line for this one is only 55, which I think is disrespectful in the fact I just don't think the books have accurately caught up to what his new role is on the Bills. So this is one that I would recommend laddering up to 75, even getting 80, or 80, 85, 90, depending on what book allows that. The books are just not catching up to his new role, as I mentioned. So Dawson Knox went down 3 weeks ago. Dawson Knox was basically splitting time, their other tight end, with Dalton Kincaid. Since then, Kincaid has had 75, 65, and 81 receiving yards. So in 2 of those 3 games, he's cashed this 75 plus for plus 280 odds. And also in those games, what I like is the targets. 8, 7, and 11 targets in those 3 games while playing 90+% of the snaps. It's a completely new role for Kincaid, and he's been smashing in it. He's now become the second target in the Bills offense after Stephon Diggs, and it's a very pass-heavy offense. So the second target gets a ton of work. And not only is he getting a ton of work, but he's looked awesome at it. So he's rewarded the team with stellar play for his increased role. And he's just a reliable target. I mentioned the work that he's been getting the past 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, he caught 8 of 8 targets. Last week, he caught 10 of 11 targets. He's just a reliable target. I know I'm using that word a lot, but for lack of a better word, he's just a reliable avenue for Josh Allen to pass the ball. Something the Bills need because their offense has always been explosive, but they haven't been consistent. At least Kincaid adds some sort of consistency. Now, the Broncos defense, if you look at their season-long stats, it's all going to be bad. When you give up 70 points, yeah, it's going to make things look a little bit worse than they are. But I will admit that the Broncos defense has quietly gotten better since that 70-point debacle. They're not nearly the abomination that they were before. But one area in which they've continued to struggle is against the tight end. Looking at DVOA, they ranked 26th at covering tight ends specifically. And that even includes their last game in which they basically shut down the Chiefs offense, including Travis Kelce. Now, that game, I do not think is prescriptive for any future events because that was a flu game for the Chiefs, or for Mahomes specifically. And the Chiefs offense just looked clunky. That's not how well I expect the Broncos defense to play moving forward. And I don't think that is going to be anything against Dalton Kincaid. So I will continue to ride with him as long as the books still aren't catching up, and as long as the matchup looks good. Both of those are satisfied in this one. So for plus 280, I like it. Rounding out our second and final pick of the evening. 2 plays for you guys to lock in. If we get one of these 2 to cash, we will at least be profitable. If we get both to cash, we will be mini rich, not quite fully rich, mini rich. So let's hope for that. And that's all I got. Appreciate everybody for watching, and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and have a good one.